Hey guys, welcome to Denny's. Today we're going to be going into Freyna. More specifically, we're going to be going into a bossy version of Freyna. A little bit of an updated build guide for Freyna in Season 2, kind of in the midway point here. More specifically, we're going to go over the weapons, components, reactor, and modules. Now, if you like the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you feel that I have earned it, but without waiting too much longer, let's jump into the Freyna build. Also, before we get started, don't forget to check out my Twitch. The link will be in the description below. We're live daily. If you guys want to hang out, I'm over there. Also live on YouTube. Don't feel free to stop by if you guys want to. Well, let's jump into the Descendant modules first. I do want to preface this. We are going to be going into the build. This is a little bit of a different build video. I'm going to go over the build live here on the build screen, and then what I'll do is transition over to the bossing kills. I'll add those into the video. Won't be much of me talking, just kind of going over the bosses with Freyna and obviously showing each kill time and everything. But let's jump into the build. First things first, we're going to go into the Descendant modules. All right, so the modules. So for solo bossing, not much has changed. I did change my power increase over from focus on toxic specialist used to be here where skill extension was here where HP was, and HP was here where power increase was. But we can easily put power increase in to get a little bit more damage out of the build just because of how the buckets work. Obviously, when you have skill power, it's going to be its own bucket entirely compared to toxic skill power here. So by stacking too much of this toxic skill power, we'll get a little bit of a diminishing return. So that is why it's better to add some skill power to the build. Although we do get quite a bit from the Slayer components, which I will get into. But yeah, that is pretty much the main change. Obviously, we're using Toxic Amp, Tech Specialist, and Power Increase for our damage mods. Dangerous Ambush. Obviously, that is going to be every time you want to use that while you're bossing with any Descendant, just because of how much damage it does provide. And then specifically with Venom Injection, we are going to be using Overwhelming Shield, and increased HP. Now, what Venom Injection does, basically make it so it consumes HP and gives you a nice little damage increase. However, if you don't have any HP to consume, it will consume MP. That is why we run Overwhelming Shield with this build and why it is so synergistic with Venom Injection. And we get a nice bump to our damage. So this is why Venom Injection is used in all the solo bossing or group bossing builds that you see with Freyna. Also skill extension. Now the reason I'm actually using skill extension here instead of something like Venom Sanctum is actually because we need it with the new updated build. This is the biggest change probably. This is going to provide you with the most damage, the easiest that we can get it. So we're going to jump over to the weapon to explain why we're using that really quickly. All right, so hopping over to the weapon really quick. Obviously, you can use whatever you want as far as general rounds. I'm using Fallen Hope, but you make sure that it is general rounds, and we're going to go into why. It is to do with the mod Firing Fiesta. So Firing Fiesta says when reloading rounds are not consumed for 3 seconds. So what this means is you can get off a reload, and this actually affects Freyna's ultimate ability. What you're going to want to do is, and you'll see me do in the gameplay, is basically just prep a reload by shooting bullets, and then as soon as you get about 3/4 of the way through reloading, you can use your ultimate and then roll cancel. I will have a section of the video going over how to do this exactly in the laboratory after the build setup before we get into the bosses, but this is the big change, and this is what's going to allow us to shoot off more than around 110, 115 shots, I believe. It gets you an insane amount of damage, and this is why we actually need that duration mod inside of the skill mods, because we actually need that extra 3 seconds to get off these shots, just because we need a little bit more rate of fire. I know a lot of people run sharp precision shot, but that gets the damage off just a little bit quicker. This gives you more overall damage in the long run. So if you want to burst bosses down quicker, you can absolutely feel free to replace this with sharp precision shot. All the other mods I'm using on here have an effect on Freyna's ult, so I'll go into those quickly. We've got Special Forces. That's going to increase your movement speed while aiming, and yes, it does take effect when you have Freyna's ultimate out. Also, aiming compensation, concentration stabilizer, and vibration absorption, as well as Hawkeye, all affect Freyna's ultimate. It is affected by accuracy. Obviously, the crit hit damage and the crit hit damage from both of these is not going to work. However, Hawkeye and vibration absorption is going to affect, they're both going to affect your ultimate, as well as obviously compulsive magazine and expand weapon charge. Those are going to increase your mag size. The reason that we want compulsive magazine is because it actually increases the mag size the most with an extra 9% over all the other magazine mods. And then obviously weak point damage does nothing for us, so it doesn't matter that we're losing that 10% weak point. So that is the ultimate, or that is the weapon that I'll be using with Freyna, and that is kind of the biggest change overall in the build and kind of what provides you with as much damage as you can get. I will say I do use Enduring Legacy still whenever I'm going in with a group just to finish. You know, you'll see the scuffed Death Stalker pull that I did with a totally random group with a scuffed build I had where I had one shield mod incorrectly placed. I was not using the correct shield mod, but I only had like 11,000 HP or less, and I think I was still doing pretty well. I did like 100 million damage. But yeah, this is the Enduring Legacy I use. And then obviously I still do use the Secret Garden. I don't have it socketed with this, but I use it for whenever I run out of ammo with the general rounds of Enduring Legacy, and that helps me quite a bit. Obviously, again, the only reason I'm using Fallen Hope is because it happens to be the weapon that I got the roll on, or I added the implant on for this one, but way back when I was trying to work on Fallen Hope. It ended up working out because I have obviously Fallen Hope and obviously Firing Fiesta. But let's jump into the Reactor really quickly. So going over the Reactor, it's going to be a pretty weak Reactor that I have here on screen. You can see I have Colossus and Toxic Boost. I guess it wouldn't be weak to most people, but the reason I say it's weak is because the best in slot is going to be Colossus Boost and Tech Damage. Now, I have been farming the Freyna Reactor pretty much all week. I have still not seen any Tech Boost plus Colossus that are even double purple, let alone purple and gold or even double gold. I have been getting extremely unlucky with Freyna's Reactor. I got Sharon's Reactor in like less than 10 minutes of the farm there, but just not getting lucky with Freyna's. Again, you want Colossus and Tech Boost and any general rounds weapon with the setup that I had for Fallen Hope. I kind of explained why in the weapon portion. It's pretty straightforward for the Reactor with bossing with Freyna. And let's jump into the components really quickly, kind of go over those. All right, and the components. So the components, obviously it's 4 set, Slayer. The 2 set doesn't do anything. The big thing is going to be the 4 set. Rounds per magazine plus 9% and skill power plus 26%. Obviously it synergizes very well with Freyna. That's why we're never going to take this off when we're bossing. The 9% rounds per magazine gives you a giant amount of bullets. I think it's like, not a giant amount, it's like 5 bullets or so, but that adds to around 1 million damage or more in the long run. And then obviously the skill power is just a giant amount of skill power. It's actually ridiculous compared to other sets. It's very good. You can get away with running the Distorted Resolve Aux Power set if you want to. I think it provides you a little bit more of a survivability with the shield setup and everything. However, I just like the Slayer because it's a little bit easier to use. You just plop it on, you get the 26% skill power, and that is it. Now for the rolls on the Aux Power, always going to go for max HP and MP recovery out of combat, max MP and MP recovery in combat for the sensor. I've got MP recovery modifier gold on the memory, but I do not have a roll with defense. I would highly suggest getting a roll with MP recovery and defense for the memory. And then as far as the processor, you basically want anything you want. It's for me, I just want more equipment, so I get the equipment drop rate increase modifier. Obviously toxin resistance is one of the more defensive rolls that you can get on the processor, but yeah, that is going to be the processor for the Freyna build, and that's going to wrap up the components there. All right, and then heading into the Inversion Reinforcement, there's not a lot here that we can really take advantage of. Obviously, if you need to in the longer fights, you can run Void Resistance. Void Resistance is very strong in Void battles because obviously below 50% health, you get a giant amount of damage reduction. We do get a pretty good damage reduction by just picking up HP and MP orbs, so don't forget about that, as well as the debuff immunity. But the main thing we're using is Quantum Domain. You don't have a lot of cooldown on this build, so you can't really like jump in and spam your abilities to get Quantum Domain stacking, but you can do it as much as you possibly can, so I always recommend to get that stacking. And then other than that, you can use things like Adrenaline Rush if you want. You can use things like Arcade Boost. For bossing, we're not much going to need those, to be honest, so I would recommend running any type of round that is going to be weak, your boss is going to be weak to. So for example, if you're going against, Death Stalker, obviously it's weak to electric, you would run electric focus rounds. That's going to add a little bit of damage to your Enduring Legacy, and that is pretty much all I would recommend there, but pretty niche for the setup as far as Inversion Reinforcement. Just going to recommend Quantum Domain for that, and that pretty much wraps up the build. All right, so we're in the lab, and I'm quickly just going to show you guys exactly what I mean when I'm talking about roll canceling and getting that Firing Fiesta to proc. So simply put, step by step, all you're going to do is shoot your gun, make sure that you have a few to reload. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start reloading, but I'm not going to finish it. When the bar gets to about 3/4 of the way, I'm going to pop my ultimate and then roll. I do have my roll keybind set to scroll down my mouse wheel so I can roll as fast as humanly possible. So we're going to reload, pop your ultimate, roll, and then you are good to go. You can see that we just get an extra 10, 15 shots off. I did it pretty slow there too, to be honest, just for the sake of the example. However, you get a giant amount off. I'll show it again really quickly. We'll wait like 25 seconds and cut over to that. All right, so this one's going to be a little bit faster, but I'm going to do the same thing I just did so that you guys get a good idea. You can see it's a little bit more 10 to 15 shots sometimes if you get it perfectly. But yeah, that's the roll cancel with Freyna using Firing Fiesta, getting it as many bullets in it as long of a duration as you can on the uptime of the Firing Fiesta there. And from there, we're going to jump into some bosses, but that's pretty much been it from me yapping. So I appreciate you guys for staying this long. Don't forget to like the video if it helped you out. Subscribe if you feel that I've earned it. Jump over to Twitch, follow me there. The link is in the description. If you guys would like to, I'm live daily, so I'd love to see you guys over there. But yeah, I'm going to be killing some bosses from here. I definitely want to know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Are you guys still rocking Freyna? Are you guys using other Descendants because of kind of how boring it can be to use the meta, etc.? I'm really curious. Definitely let me know in the comments below how you guys are feeling about Freyna. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great day, night. Enjoy the boss kills, kind of going over each and every boss here. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. I'm out of here. Peace out. Goodbye.